She is completely unexplainable. You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you find out she's a great girl. You realize she's everything, she's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you never know what she'll do next.
Hey, we came back. We're back again. I'm so excited that you came back too. And we've got some amazing guests here today. I have Kenneth Greenblatt and Stephanie Siegel. Now, Kenneth, I just was introduced to recently. He has gotten within his whole corporation 50 Tony Awards. And I was just blown away by that. And so, Kenneth, do you want to explain to us, like, how does a man come from, where'd you come from?
New York.
And so, a guy from New York, what happened to get you in show business, first of all? What happened to make you think, that's what I want to do, show business?
That's an easy question. Every year for my birthday, my grandmother took me to a Broadway show, and I couldn't wait to get back. I used to say to my grandmother, in 365 days, are we going to do this again? And she always said, I promise I will. And it was I look forward to it all year. And I'm old now.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of the shows.
Well, are you old? I don't think you look old at all.
Thank you. And it was one of the highlights, and I couldn't wait. So I was in the textile business for a lot of years, and I eventually sold my business. And a Broadway producer who owned Sardi's called me up because he read it was public information. He says, listen, we'd love you to invest in a show. And I was so excited. I said, you can invest in a Broadway show? And he invited me down to a rehearsal of a show. And I just fell in love with it. So he said...
he wanted you to be there as an investor.
So I said, let me go see it.
So where did you get all this bucks that you could invest in a Broadway show?
Where did you miss that I just sold my textile company?
You sold your company. I didn't hear you say you sold it. Okay.
Right? Yeah. So that's where the bucks came from.
So you had all this bucks burning a hole in your pocket, and you said, maybe I want to invest.
I didn't want to keep this money. I had any money my whole life, and I didn't want to keep this money in my pocket. So he said I could invest $100,000 in the show. And I said, I'll tell you what.
Wow.
I only want to do it if I can touch and feel it. I would like to come and watch rehearsals. He said, no investors can watch rehearsals. And he told me no. So then about 2 weeks later, he called me back and said, listen, if you sit in the last row of the theater, which isn't exactly my personality, as Stephanie could tell you. No. If you sit in the last row of the theater and don't speak to anybody, you could watch rehearsals. So I agreed to that. But by the second week, I was sitting in the front row talking to the director, and he was listening to me. And it was so exciting watching the process. And the show was 9, and the director was Tommy Tune. So I had a real great introduction to the Broadway business.
And that was in 1983, wasn't it?
1981.
81.
And then what happened, because I was going to rehearsals, and every night I was going and loving it. And all of a sudden, somebody from Paramount, who was the producer of 9, came in and got up on stage and in front of my show and said, I'm so sorry, the show's not going to open. We're going to close it down. We don't think it's Broadway worthy. So I got up and said, I don't know who this idiot is, but the show is going to open, and I promised the cast it would open. I didn't even know what I was talking about. But I had a friend at my country club where I played golf named Morty Becker, who was George C. Scott's attorney. So I went over to him on Saturday morning, and this was Friday when this whole thing happened. And I told the cast, come to rehearsal tomorrow because this is not closing. Again, not knowing anything.
Right.
Which is the story of my life. So I went to this meeting with Morty Becker. First he said, I'll meet you after golf and have lunch. And I told him, and he said, forget it. You're going to get screwed. You can't do this. I said, Morty, if you don't become my lawyer, then I'm going to get screwed by an attorney also.
Right.
So he agreed to do it. On Monday morning, we were on the phone with Mike Eisner, who was the president of Paramount, and Morty and Paramount's attorney, and he started talking to me about billing and points above the title, all the stuff that you have to learn to do. And I had to come up with another $1 million to buy out Paramount.
Oh my goodness.
Which I did. So now my first show, I have $1.1 million in before I even know what hit me. And I didn't know about any of the competition. I just fell in love with this show. Just thought it could not miss. Not knowing that Dreamgirls was already like the Hamilton of the year.
Right.
And everybody was expecting Dreamgirls to win every award. So we go through rehearsals, and I bought out Paramount. And I'm sitting at the last performance and I watched previews, which was quite an experience, where the first show's 3 hours long, and by the time the show's ready to open, it's like just under 2 hours. And I watched the whole gestation of the show become fantastic.
That's amazing.
And then we went on to win the Tony Award for Best Musical over Dreamgirls. And that's what got me into this career. I at this point, I said, boy, am I good at this? I ought to stay in the business. And that's pretty much what happened.
And so, of all of the awards you got,
Well, let me explain the awards. But 50 Tony
Yes.
Awards comes from all the shows that we produced and different awards for other people in the shows. I only gotten 4 Tony Awards or 5 even, for Best Producer.
okay.
So like if Tommy Tune got Best Choreographer and Best Director, that would count as my 50 Tony Awards because my shows got 50 Tony Awards. So if that makes
Well,
that
which
clear.
one it means the most to you?
Every one of them means a lot, but I think 9 probably means the most because it was my first and most exciting, the most exciting thing when you hear your name announced.
And so, would that be your favorite show too that you've done? That you produced?
Favorite show I've done because of finances is Menopause the Musical.
Because of finances?
Menopause the Musical has made more money than any show that we
Oh.
produced, and it's the most amazing show ever.
And if you've kept up with me on my Being Tracy Facebook page, you will see pictures that I put up that I actually went. Kenneth made sure that I had tickets to go see this musical, and I'll tell you why. Because when we first met over the telephone, Kenneth was like asking me all these shows, and he was like, "Have you seen this show? Have you seen this show? Have you seen this show?" And I was like, and I was answering honestly, no. And he finally is like, well, geez, what do you do? What do you do with your time, And I'm like, well, honestly, I've been single a long time. I go out to dinner a lot. I really haven't gone to a lot of shows lately. And so then he kept asking me, well, have you heard of this show? And so then I'm going to tell you the truth. I started lying and saying, yes, I've heard of that show. Oh, yes. I heard
Basically,
of
what
that
she
show.
told me is that I've never made a dime on Tracy. And then when she went to Las Vegas, we gave her Compter tickets to Menopause.
It was awesome. And so I took my sister.
Just let
and
me tell you, Menopause is the longest running show in the history of Las Vegas. So,
And
still running.
I want you to know it is an amazing show. And I went with my sister, and one of my brothers said he wouldn't go to a show about menopause with 2 menopausal women. So anyway, I took 2 girlfriends that also went with us, and we just had a blast. And we got to sit right upstage, right underneath the stage, nice table. But thank you so
Well, if you
much.
couldn't get good tickets from me, who are you going to get them from?
Well, that was.
But I got to tell you, where you're whoever you just said, men love this show, love it. And yes,
Well, there was one.
waiting outside, we do about 92% women with that show, except in Las Vegas, which is more closer to 50-50.
There was a couple there that said they'd been there 22 times. Like they were like everybody in the show knew them.
And they paid for the tickets, not
Every
like you.
time. No, they paid for them.
Right?
So anyway, so we were producing, and now my son runs the company, Seth Greenleaf, and he runs the company. He has 2 shows on Broadway that he did all himself with 6 and the Book of Mormon. So he's doing great. And now I'm spending more of my time with the project down in Boca Raton, which I am absolutely ecstatic about.
Now, I have one question. Seth Greenleaf is your son. Is that by marriage?
No, that's my son. He changed his name because when he was an actor, they thought it would be better to change his name to Greenleaf from Greenblatt. But my
What?
granddaughter, Ariana Greenblatt, has proven
Yes.
that that's not the case. Because
Exactly.
Greenblatt, she's not doing too badly with.
No, if
her
you
career.
know of Ariana from the Barbie movie, she's done pretty well. So that's that's
And my other granddaughter, Charlie, is straight A's at Ransom. So we're so proud of my
you got
children.
a good heritage, good family there, good genes.
So let me go back to what I'm doing now. Is I'm on the board of Mizner, and one of my responsibilities, because of my career, they asked me to oversee the theater.
So that
And
brings us to Stephanie here.
I want to introduce Stephanie, and Stephanie. Somehow we met Stephanie. We interviewed a ton of people, and we met Stephanie, and absolutely, it was like the hammer and the nail. She was perfect for this organization, and what she's done in the last, 6 months or year?
Yeah,
a year, where the theater was losing money, and now we're making money, and she's making this theater something special in Boca
Do you know
Raton.
about it? You,
I do know about it.
you
I
live
haven't.
in Mizner.
I noticed there's a comedy show coming up this week that
Might
I
have heard
thought
of it.
looked
Saw it.
interesting.
It's
Yeah,
tonight.
so I
Yeah,
was
Tim
looking at
Meadows.
tickets last night,
Yeah.
checking it out. You remember, I live in Mizner Park, Boca Raton, so
Are you
that's
looking
where.
for more free tickets?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, hey, I won't turn them down. But
Stephanie,
anyway,
if you could tell us about the theater.
Well, I mean, listen, I think it's interesting because so much of it was like serendipitous the way it worked out. I mean, just like Kenny, I think our stories are very much in line. Like I was never in the theater business. I was a news reporter my whole life.
Right.
But then I moved here, and honestly, I was really bored. Like going from chasing news in New York City to moving to Boca with 2 young kids, like I wasn't ready for a life that was just kind of like a mommy life. And during COVID, my husband and I had opened up an outdoor comedy club here in Mizner at the amphitheater, and we called it Comedy on the Green. And it was a really, I realized that business had a big, like a pulse, like the news business did. And so then when I met Peg Anderson, who's the president of the board that Kenny works on, and Kenny and I met, I think that there was a lot of similarities in that. I remember a moment when I was jumping at the bit, like it was taking time to get the contract done, or we had to wait for a certain amount of time. And he was like, I can see her, she's ready to go now. And we were joking about it because, you know, I think you need that kind of energy to start something from the ground. I mean, you live there and you don't even know where it is, or maybe you know where it is,
I knew where it
but
is.
You've never been there.
I walk past it to go to Eddie V's every night.
Yes.
A lot of nights.
But I think that speaks to what people are used to doing in this town and what we're trying to, like, we're trying to change habits. We're bringing shows to town, but we're trying to show people that there's more to do than
I was so impressed to look at your calendar last night when I was
it's a good
home.
calendar.
Yeah.
It's a good calendar.
She's amazing.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background, Stephanie.
Yeah. I was a news reporter my whole life. So I don't know. I mean, I started in Gainesville, Florida, and then I went to Fort Myers, Florida, and then I went to LA and then to New York. So I spent most of my 20s in very serious jobs. But you know what I loved about the news business was the tempo and the chaos and making sense of the chaos. So, you know, it makes sense that now I'm in this business that's equally chaotic, but in a great way, right? Like show business is a drug for me.
That's wonderful.
That's my background. I mean, I was a news reporter, and then I learned show business when I got totally self-taught. But when you open one business, you know how to, you know, it makes sense. Like once you understand that you can't be in the red and you have to make the money.
Well,
and
that's a true statement. I was in I don't know if you heard YPO, Young Presidents Organization, when I was in New York. And what I learned in that organization is every business is the same. You have a product, whether it be a show or a wicket, and you have to go through all the stuff in the middle. And at the end of the thing, you have to make money doing it. So it's selling and your product and getting to the right people and finding ways to sell it and ways to make it less expensively. Like a show, there's so many stories in Broadway that you couldn't believe it. Like the original La Cage aux Folles, where you make the sets and you design the costumes and you redesign the costumes.
Right.
And when you do the music, you have to write sheet music for 26 instruments in the orchestra, and you have to do it over and over again. You don't just put a note in and say that's right, and then you got to try every single one. And the original cost $5 million. The revival 10 years later cost $15 million. I have no idea where that money went. It was probably the biggest mistake. We won the Tony Award for Best Musical, Best Revival, but we lost money.
Wow.
And I learned a lot from that experience.
Yeah.
Because somehow the expenses that shouldn't have been anywhere near the first expenses were triple.
What would you say is the biggest thing you learned from that experience?
Not to trust certain people in the industry. I was still a neophyte. I was only in business 10 years by then, but there's so much to learn every day. And my son, who went to school for it and everything else, is 100 times better than I was at the business, and knows it better. And I'm so impressed watching what he does with the business. 90% retired, and I've never felt such confidence in anybody I've ever worked with as I do my son.
Right.
And he's proven himself over and over again, and the way he runs the business in every which way, which is like what I see with Stephanie running the theater. It's just, we just have great people. If you get great people and do the right things and you care about it from the bottom of your heart and you believe in it, things will be successful. And this what she's done with this theater. It's just complete turnaround from a losing proposition for this town. And I think it's the first year, so we're certainly turning the corner. And I think it's going to be a very profitable organization. She just signed 5 bar mitzvahs for the theater. I mean,
signed bar mitzvah?
5 bar mitzvahs.
Bar mitzvahs?
Well, the idea, right, is that this is such a massive space in downtown Boca that not nobody, but so few people know about. But there's the theater and then there's event space. So again, I think it just goes back to an opportunity zone. Like, that's how I operate in life. I don't go into, and I look at everything as an opportunity. I walk into this place and I look at it as an opportunity.
That's the way.
And that venue, when I saw it, I didn't see it as this brick and mortar, I didn't just see it as a building, right? I just saw opportunity. And I think that's what I conveyed. And also, like, he makes a really good point. It's an opportunity for the people in the town to have live entertainment. I mean, in our first season, we had Alan Cumming, who is a 3-time Tony Award winner, or something, a 3 or 4-time Tony Award winner. I mean, he is the original cabaret. I mean, the fact that we even were able to book him, I think also says a lot about the potential of Boca, right? Like, this is a place where people really want to come. So, part of that too is it. But like, starting a business, man, it's not easy. I mean, I'm cleaning floors, cleaning toilets. We're doing everything, and you just gotta.
I'll be honest, I'm not cleaning any toilets.
No, he's not.
But I agree with my company. I would call people from the textile business for those years, and ever since, at 10 o'clock at night. There was no hours when I ran a business. It was, and I hadn't even thought about it. I mean, everybody that I would call, and everybody would call me, was because you worked 24/7 if you could, but you couldn't. You had to sleep sometimes. So everything that would, when you go into a business or anything in life, I think you got to give it 1,000% and believe in it 1,000%.
Yeah, and the first 3 years are the hardest.
And every year is the hardest. Each year gets harder, but the foundations and everything you build, and you get the right employees, and she's more than an employee. She basically runs the theater. And you just got to have people that live on those same kind of guidelines. You can't have people that just say, I work 9 to 5 and don't call me and don't do this. I could never work with people like that.
I don't know how.
Right.
I mean, it's just not in my nature.
Well, I don't know how anybody could expect to only work from 9 to 5 at this point in life and still be successful. Right. It's something.
Well,
you got to love what you do too. I mean,
that's
it's very hard to do stuff every day if you don't love it. I mean, it's the truth. And I'm married 54 years, and I love her every day. So it's it's.
But it's work.
Yeah, it's definitely work. Being loving, it's definitely work.
Marriage is work. Work's work. It's all work, right? Yeah.
Very hard loving my wife every single day, because some days she's not perfect.
Well, nobody's perfect. But so now, how did you meet? How did you?
She was interviewed at the theater.
Is that how you met her?
Yeah.
From the interview?
First of all, she's good looking, has a great figure. So she had an advantage of some of the.
See, he boosts my ego.
Yes.
This is the best.
You got to work with people that boost your ego.
When she started speaking and the excitement and everything the way she was, and she was excited about the project. She was looking for something, and she just fit our team, and our team was just building, and she became the leader overnight. And then she just grabbed it and took off. I mean, she doesn't ask questions. She just does it, and then we have to fix it after.
Wow. I don't have to fix that much. No, Peg Anderson is the president of the board, who is a superstar. I mean, she's like our queen. She is the woman that you want to work hard for. And we met by way of some other connections. And I honestly, as soon as I heard that opportunity was open, just because of what we had produced at the amphitheater during COVID, which was Comedy on the Green. It was an outdoor it was like an outdoor comedy space, and literally put my entire savings in to just build this out. And again, we came out on top. I mean, we didn't make a ton of money, but then I was like, oh, I did this for the first time. It was a massive investment.
That was the comedy place you started before this studio?
Yes, my husband's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah. And I love it.
Yeah, so.
He's performing tonight, by the way, if there's any tickets left.
Yeah. Well, this airs on Friday, so it's moot. Another time. Yes, during COVID, I was incredibly bored, and we used to just circle Mizner Park. And full disclosure, I had my glass of wine in the car. We had a newborn. We had a 4-year. I mean, it was a chaos, but it was our little happy hour. And my husband was the one driving, and we used to go past the amphitheater that was just dark. And I don't know if you remember, but I saw what they were doing at the Seaport in New York City, which was they were taking these rooftops and creating these pods. And some people who are listening to this might remember this. So I decided to find a manufacturer in China that I found through a website. And I said, I need 300 sling beach chairs, and I needed blankets, and then I needed tables to build out these pods, because I had this vision that we would do socially distanced seating, outdoor seating for this comedy shows.
Genius.
So the city approved it. They approved 3 of them. It was great until it wasn't because COVID,
COVID wasn't good for anybody.
Well, COVID wasn't good for anybody. And then as soon as people started going indoors, this idea of sitting outside for a comedy show wasn't great because the acoustics sucked. I mean, there's so many things that work against you.
Right.
But then I got the bug. And as soon as I got the bug.
Well, when we interviewed a lot of people. Stephanie was different.
How many people? No.
Actually, I wanted 2 others, but Peg wanted her. No. Peg wanted her.
Honesty.
No.
Peg put her foot down, and I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
We interviewed, and she was light years different than everybody else. I mean, she just had the enthusiasm and the excitement. You could feel it, and it was
great.
contagious for us. And then she didn't stop from the time we took it over. So
I'm still here because they gave me that opportunity. I would have moved back to New York.
New York, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now she likes Boca, so that was a win for the city.
So when did you decide that your industry needed G4 Productions?
I was producing the shows myself, and you get partners in each show, and had great partners. And then we found this little tiny 4-person show, Menopause the Musical. And like I said, with La Cage aux Folles Revival that we won the Best Tony for, we lost money. Right. And here's a show that had 4 people. It wasn't anywhere near as expensive as these big Broadway things. And we didn't know anything about touring.
Right.
And we started the show, and every place we went, it just sold out. It's almost like it sold out by itself.
Right.
From word of mouth. Everybody saw the show. We'd come in if we opened and we stayed in a place for a month, the first 3 or 4 weeks we had, not full houses. And from then on, the word of mouth spread it. And the rule of thumb is one person loves a show, they'll tell 20 people about it. And you can multiply that out, and it very quickly can start filling theaters. And then the word of mouth on the street and the reviews. And every time we went into a town, we were starting to get known. And what the good thing about Menopause is, we're not selling a person. Like if Liza Minnelli was the star of Menopause the Musical and she left the show, well, people will think the show wasn't as good.
Right.
Menopause the Musical, the title sells the show. Now we just started Menopause 2, and it's selling out everywhere. Like I said, it's the longest running show in the history of Las Vegas. That says something. It's just a 4-person show that just makes people laugh till they hurt. I'll give you one example. You know the song My Guy?
Yeah.
Well, Menopause, the musical, changed it to My Thighs. And
yes, I noticed that.
And yeah, so
Sure.
the whole show is like that, with 60s music, with lyric changes, and they all work. And the book in between is a simple story of 4 women meeting and hating each other and then loving each other. And Menopause 2 carries that through, where the 4 women take a cruise on a ship, and these same 4 women now who hated each other at the beginning,
Right.
now love each other, and now they're out on a cruise as friends. And what happens on that cruise is hysterical.
Now, how did you get started working with the studio? What is your
Only because of
position
my,
there?
I guess my, my resume, and they asked me to be on the board because of this theater. And basically, I'm 90% retired from G4, and I help
Right. Seth
Seth with anything he needs me for. But he runs the daily everything, and which is at my age, it's thrilling for me too. And I know he loves it, and
Right.
he's great at it. So Menopause, all of a sudden we realized we can tour this ourselves. We can take it, and we ended up buying the show from the author. There's only 2 shows in the history of theater that have been. The author doesn't have the rights to, and that is the Defending the Caveman and Menopause the Musical.
Right.
So it turned out to be a real product that we had, the IP, and it's been quite a ride. As a matter of fact, when I spoke at the University of Miami, and to all the students, and we asked them which would you prefer producing, La Cage aux Folles or Book of Mormon, and all these shows. And all of them said other shows or Menopause the Musical. I said, you all fail, because Menopause the Musical has been the home run for G4.
Nobody said
This
Menopause,
world.
you said?
Nobody said Menopause, because everybody knows, 9, Book of Mormon, Grand Hotel, My One and Only, Star Tommy Tune and Twiggy.
Yeah,
and,
it's amazing how many shows you've done.
6. You can't even get a ticket to 6.
Yeah.
That's the best show.
Yeah, it's
I've gone 3 times with
Really?
my kids. Yes.
and she paid for tickets each time.
I
too.
did pay for tickets.
Well, listen, I wanted him to be on my podcast, and he said, I'm not going to be on your podcast till you've seen at least one of my shows.
There you go.
And he said, so go see it, and then afterwards we'll have lunch. So that's what
Which
we
I
did.
paid for.
Which he paid for at his building.
My pleasure, Tracy.
And I got to meet Sandra, his beautiful wife, so that was a pleasure, too. So anyway, well, so now tell me, how do you see entertainment changing now from when you first started years ago?
I can
As you're
answer that.
working with the studio, how are you seeing it
Well, the
changing?
studios, let me tell you, the studio has an advantage over Broadway. And Broadway tickets are becoming so expensive that it's mind-boggling to me. I remember having a meeting for 4 hours discussing La Cage aux Folles, because it was the Hamilton of the day, and to raise the price from $40 to $45. Today, in our G4 meeting, I heard that basic ticket prices in the orchestra for a new show that's opening are $800, the best seats,
Oh my
going down to
goodness.
$200
It
for
was
an orchestra
crazy.
seat.
I just took-
It's crazy
That
how
is
expensive
crazy.
they are. It's
Yeah.
really sad. And I don't know if it's all going to what you see on stage. I think there's a lot of money that's falling between the cracks as far as I can see, and it's not my specialty. But
But also, like, I just went to go see Moulin Rouge with the girls
Yeah.
when it was a kids' night on Broadway. I think I paid $180 a ticket. Like, that's insane for kids
Yeah.
to go see a show. And
4-hour
by the way,
meeting.
we didn't even have great seats.
4-hour meeting to go up for $5. Could you imagine? That was
Yeah.
1983.
It went how much?
Went from $40 to $45 for La Cage aux Folles in 1983.
Wow.
To your question, though, your question about how entertainment has changed. I think there's so many, like, facets of entertainment now, and I
Right.
think what we're seeing is like, it's not streamlined. Like, a lot of people can be famous,
Right.
and when a lot of people are famous, I think it like muddies the pool of like what is really quality entertainment. And I don't know if I'm taking this off the rails, right? But like for us, I think the conversation is like, you know, in a small nonprofit theater, not small, but we're 300 seats capacity. So you obviously have, like, I'm always budget conscious, like just like Kenny, like I'm never going to say, let's get ourselves in a situation where potentially we're not going to come out on top, because
Right.
as a nonprofit theater, we want to reinvest so that this space is as great as it can be for Mizner.
Right.
So I think what we're saying to ourselves is, should we bring in like a TikTok star, right, who has a great following and can pack the house, or do we bring in somebody who has an amazing resume and has all these really great, you know, awards and stuff? So I think the entertainment space has changed in that there's just like a lot more options out there, and I think the younger people are more, you know, gravitate more towards like these
Right.
these
Well, our
stars that are
shows
popping
are-
up on the social.
Our shows are reasonably priced, much more.
They're definitely reasonably priced.
Fairer than Broadway, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the people that are seeing on stage, they're getting the money's worth here. She's also doing shows for kids who I couldn't even get my
The
granddaughter
Very
in,
Hungry
and-
Caterpillar.
Yeah, the Very
Yeah.
Hungry Caterpillar, and it was like sold out, and the audience just loved it.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun to see the audience. Part of the thing I love about the whole thing is watch the audience. I produced a show called Catskills on Broadway, and I used to go there just to watch the audience, you know, because they were hysterical.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Menopause, and when you see La Cage or Six, you go there and you just watch the audience. You feel so proud of what you've given them. I mean, it's, you know, getting
That's
entertainment in
amazing,
this
yeah.
industry. You turn on the television, and it's all depressing. And one of the things that's actually helped us when the COVID hit, streaming, we thought was going to be giant streaming. And this AI thing is a problem. But I think with live theater, you're not going to have those issues. You can't use AI in live theater. I mean, I don't think you can. And as far as the streaming goes, it's not a live show.
Right.
And the streaming, which went up and peaked, I think, and we've done some streaming, we realized it's really not the future for live theater, and that's a good thing for us.
Okay, so I know you've got some good stories, Kenneth. Do you like to be called Kenneth or Kenny? I hear everybody calling you Kenny.
Ken, I don't care.
Okay. So what is your craziest story? I'm sure you have a crazy story in your years of working in entertainment. What's the craziest one you can think of right now?
Okay, this is you put me on the spot, so I will. One time, and I assume everybody knows Anthony Quinn, and he's a great friend of ours. So Tussie was Tony, and one time in Zorba, he has to drink a bottle of what's a Greek drink?
Orzo?
Orzo. He
No,
has to
no,
drink-
no. Is that Orzo?
Yeah, Orzo. He has to chug
that it?
a big glass of Orzo. So as a joke, I filled it with scotch.
Oh, that's not it.
All right. So he's on stage, and this was in San Francisco, and it must have been 4,000 people in the theater. And as he's doing the thing, he has to sing a song called Grandpapa. Oh.
Oops.
And he has to sing a song
Ouzo.
called Grandpapa. It's Ouzo, right?
Orzo, yeah.
A Grandpapa, and then he picks up the table. It's a balsa table. He picks it up in his teeth, and the drink is on it, and he chugs it. Well, you can't chug scotch as you can tea. So he does it, and he finishes the song. He finishes everything like the pro he was.
Right.
And he comes off stage and grabs that balsa wood table, smashes it against the wall, breaks it in a million pieces. Who did it? And he's going crazy. Now, thank God, nobody turned me in.
Right.
Because, but I was the stupidest thing I think I did. And you can't let and he was in his 75 years old or something like that.
Oh,
and
no.
And he chugged a whole glass of scotch, which he's
goodness.
thank God I'm not thank God he's gone, but he's gone, so he won't see this and know it. But yeah, that was a bad day.
Okay, so I want to hear another
Bad
story.
night.
Anything you can think of quick that was your sexiest story
Wow. We're going
in
there.
entertainment? What
But I
would-
really can't tell you because my wife's going to watch this.
Ah!
No. The only
Could include your wife. I don't know. I'm just asking.
It didn't include her.
It did or didn't?
No, this is like one of the things I loved about the business at the beginning is, I'm different than any business I was in, that the actresses would just change in front of you. So somehow I was always backstage at the right time to watch them change because, they didn't mind. I'm certainly not going to mind. And it was very open and friendly.
Now, this brings up a great question. How did you meet your wife, Kenneth? How did she find you? Or how did you find her?
She was a office manager of a company, my friend from college in the summer, and I used to always call and say, "Let me speak to Richard," and she said, "Say please," and I said, "I'm not saying please. He's the boss's son. Let me just speak to him." And she would hang up on me, this girl. So
This girl, your wife, you mean?
this girl I didn't know at the time. So we go back and forth, and she would never put me through unless I said please. So. And that went on the whole summer. So one day, I was home in my apartment in the city, and I get a call, and it's this girl on the phone. Oh, my friend from college always tell me she was giant, fat, pimply, ugly woman. Nothing bad about that, but this woman didn't sound like my type.
Right.
So, and I was talking to her all the time, and that's who I thought I was talking to. So, and he said the same thing about me. I was the heavyweight on the wrestling team with boils and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, this girl calls me. She says, "I want to cancel my date to go water skiing with Richard." All of a sudden, in my mind, I'm thinking, water skiing with Richard? Why would he be taking this girl water skiing? Something's not adding up. So I said to her, "Oh, she's in the city with her." Turns out to be now my oldest son's godmother. The two girls I met at the same time. I said, "You want this number to get out of water skiing? You got to come get it. I'm at this apartment, my apartment." So he said, "I'm coming up, but you just have to give me the number. Just open your door, hand me the number, and I leave." I said, "Yes." So she came over. I opened the door, almost dropped dead. She was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And she was surprised to see me because I wasn't as bad as she sounded.
Right.
As I sounded. And so we sat and talked. This was like 11 o'clock at night. We talked till 3 in the morning. Her friend that she was with, Ellen, who was now my oldest son's godmother, went to sleep on the couch in my living room. We just talked in the kitchen till 3 in the morning. And I proposed that night.
And how old were you?
I was, I don't know, 20.
You proposed that?
Do you guys have an age difference at all?
That's a good story.
Do you have an age difference?
Yeah, we have
Younger,
an age
older?
difference. I'm 6 months older.
You're older, okay. All right.
6 months older. She acts more mature and all that, but I'm 6 months older.
Okay,
And she's
so
fabulous.
now, who
Sandy's
was
great.
the most famous person you ever worked with?
Oh, geez. I guess George C. Scott, Anthony Quinn. I mean, we both worked a lot. Tony Danza. I guess George C. Scott or Anthony Quinn were the two most famous.
And who was?
I had lunch once with Raquel Welch, and we were talking and having lunch. And I just leaned over. I said, "Raquel, why is everybody looking at me?" And she said, "Do you think they're looking at you?"
Oh,
That's
funny.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, so last question is, did I ask you who the funniest person that you worked with is?
Well, I have to go to the guys on Catskills on Broadway. Mousy Lawrence, Freddie Roman, Dick Capri, and Jackie Mason helped us with that show. So I think I was funnier than all of them, but they were very funny.
That's honest.
We had dinner one night. We made a bet. I said, you guys, I could do what you do if I'm always funnier than you guys at dinner. I said, you think you could do a joke like we do? I said, yeah, absolutely. If I knew a joke, I could do it. So they bet me 4 dinners against, they took me out 4 times. So I said, okay. And the last night of the show, I got up on stage, tried to rehearse the joke, and they gave me a joke with a phone. And I never had done it with the microphone and a phone. So I couldn't get through rehearsals. And bright lights shine in my eyes. And I said, I forget it. I'll pay you the bet. I'm not going to do it. So that night, at the end of the show, Freddie Roman says, my producer's here. Oh, he told me to come and put the tuxedo on that I wore for the joke. And I said I wasn't going to do it. So he said, put the tuxedo on, and I'll introduce you at the end of the show. I said, okay. So Freddie, I come out, he introduces me. And the nicest things about me are producer, and I'm walking. And as I get halfway across the stage, he says, and he's going to do a joke for you. And I turned my back to the audience and said, I'll kill you, Freddie.
Yeah.
And he just handed me the mic and walked off the stage. So I had to do the joke.
Wow, that's great. Well, listen, now.
I nailed the joke, and I got a standing ovation. It was very
That's amazing.
So
That's amazing.
Exciting.
What a great story. A lot of great stories you have. Now we're going to need to hear a word from our sponsor, though. And so this is all about Casa Privé, which is an amazing place that I've been visiting recently. You can see it there on the screen, Casa Privé. They're working out their ad material, but this kind of gives you a glimpse of what it's like there. You pull right up. They've got a beautiful valet there taking you through the place. They're right upstairs. And so you can see there's the doctor who I'm going to have on my podcast next week.
It won't be as good as this one.
And then they've been giving me some amazing treatments. I've gotten an NAD drip, and they put all the vitamins in me, and they gave me a juice of drip, a bunch of drip before I went to Las Vegas. When I got back from Las Vegas last week, I'm going to tell you I was exhausted. And they gave me another one when I got back, so it was amazing. And then I've also done this theta chamber that they just had on there, which is good for relaxation, has helped me sleep. Anyway, there's the number for you to give them a call, and you're going to hear more about it next week when the doctor is here. Yay, we're back again. Okay, I'm so excited. I decided I've had a couple of different segments. I don't know if you watched. Did you watch my show at all before you were here?
Not in its entirety. I watched
Okay, so
some
see,
of
you
it.
got to know. That's why I asked my guests to watch my show, because they got to know what to expect. So what I do here at this point is I share blog time. I have blog time. And that is because it celebrates that I wrote these blogs when I was living in South Beach. I was going through a lot of different trials, meeting people in Miami, experiences I had, and I was so whenever something really passionately would affect me, I would write about it.
Okay.
So I've got over 100 blogs.
Wow.
And so this is one that I wrote
So you're going to read a blog now.
Well, I'm going to tell you about it and read it.
Okay.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Because I've been told that they like it better when I tell it, but I've spent so much time writing these blogs. I really kind of like the words I chose. But anyway. All right, so this is called When a Misinterpretation Gets Downright Insulting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I started off tonight. I had a date with a feeling that left me feeling really badly. Okay, here's what happened. This guy kept misinterpreting everything I would say to make me sound like a hussy. Okay. And so he came and picked me up. We went to the Mondrian Hotel, if you know where that is, over on West Avenue, South Beach. I lived right over there. We were just walking around. And he kept misinterpreting everything I was saying. And finally, for instance, this first happened when on our way over to the Mondrian, I told him that if this went really well, there were some, quote, hidden bars nearby that I could take him to. And he said, what? There are some titty bars that you could show me? And
Okay.
I mean,
So
that
he
was
spun all your words.
that was one of the things. Yeah. And now reading back on this last night, I was thinking he must have had like a hearing problem or something like that. But
Sounds too old for you.
But the date did not go well. Okay. Just starting off, he before he picked me up, I thought it might be great because he'd said that he liked me and he enjoyed going out early in the evening, and he called it GDE, getting drunk early. No hangover, in bed by 9 p.m. Alone or not is the question, is what he told me. So I was like, I kind of like that too. I like getting out and getting back early. Okay, so the first place we stopped was Bodega. Have you ever been to Bodega over there? Okay, so he said he wanted me to decide where we are going to go. And he also wanted to know what his celebrity name was going to be because after people met me, they would start reading my blogs. And so in my blog, I never would say the person's name. I always would use, as he called it, a celebrity name. And I said, well, listen, I only do it when I'm totally moved passionately by a date. And, and honestly, I didn't tell him this, but it was only when the dates would go badly that usually they would get a name, someone would get a name. And so, but this one, and then after that, I usually would just move on. But I called him the interpreter. Okay, he was the interpreter, and he was new in town. He seemed like a good sport, handsome, really white teeth for what it's worth, and fun. He had gotten his grandmother's apartment on the beach when she died and also has a place in New Jersey. Interpreter does medical sales and has traveled extensively and lived all over the world, which I found very interesting. France, San Francisco, New York. Okay, we each started with the same gin drink at the Mondrian, and I told him that I would like to mirror him. So I was going to drink the same thing, which I usually don't drink a lot of gin. But he seemed fun, but there was always an underlying current of nastiness with him, like just this whole thing that he would not understand what I was saying. And so I felt like I needed to stay on guard. So I always kept, drinking a lot of water. Okay, drinking gin, but I'm drinking a lot of water too, okay? So then after we went to Bodega, he kept offering to get us a car, but I told him, look, I like to walk. So we were walking everywhere, okay? And we went into Bodega, and this was interesting. I went to the bathroom at one point, and he started a conversation I was really quick in the bathroom, and I got back, and he was already in this real in-depth conversation that seemed to get him, like, upset a little bit. He looked at me and said that he wanted to know if I accepted allowances. And I wasn't even really sure what that meant. But I assured him that I did not. And as it started sounding like he was asking me out if I go out for money, like I'm a hooker. I mean, what does that make you think right there?
I have no idea.
You want an analysis on this?
Well, I mean, how would that make you feel?
What is your next date?
How would that make you feel?
I have so many questions, though. Like, this is not...
Go ahead.
Okay, did this all happen on one night or 2 nights?
It's all one night.
This is all one night.
But I would like to go on dates.
You met him the first...
No, this is the first meeting. I met him on like a dating app.
When is your second date?
Well,
Never.
wait and
Okay,
listen to the whole date and see if you think that I
the allowances,
a second date.
I feel like he probably got into a conversation with somebody that said, is she a hooker?
Well, I couldn't understand why he would think I was because I look professional. I've got 4 grown daughters.
But there was all this sexual innuendo beforehand.
Like what?
Well, with the titty bar.
No, that was something he brought
up. I get it, but like there was like a lot happening. Like I think that was where it was going, whether he was trying to figure it out or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, I guess you know the ending.
The allowance meant that he wanted to marry you and give you an allowance.
No.
He didn't say he wanted to marry me, but they wanted to know if I would get an allowance. And then he said, don't say anything to the bartender.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
And then he said, don't say anything to the bartender.
You can't stand it. What happened?
He said, don't say anything to the bartender. And I should have said something because that was my hood, I didn't recognize the bartender, but, I thought, why would she say something like that?
Okay.
And so anyway, I kept asking him, really? Really? Are you really asking me that? I got off the bar stool and said that I was going to leave. Interpreter also did, and he agreed that we needed to leave. And then interpreter, acting like he was very shaken up by her question, just wanted to make sure that I did not, in fact, accept allowances.
Okay.
I kept asking him again, really? Really? Why are you asking me that? What about me makes you think that I would accept allowances? Look at me. He asked me not to say anything to her, which I honored, so as not to embarrass him, but later, thinking about it, I really should have. What do you think? Do you think I should have said something to the bartender?
I mean, Ken,
I think let Stephanie answer.
I don't know.
You don't think I should have?
I mean, did you even like this guy?
I didn't even know him. I just met him.
So, no. I think I would have just written it off as being like a weird moment. I wouldn't have.
Okay, so after this, we went another place after this.
Why?
Well, we'd walked that far. I walked from where I lived on West Avenue, which was 8th, it was like 12th Street, I think.
Okay.
Down to like 16th-ish Street, where the bodega is. Okay, so now we had to walk back. Okay, that's what I figured. Okay, so after this, we walked down to one more hidden bar that I had told him about, the Foxhole, found by the red light in the alley. Have you ever been there?
No.
Well, they're reopening again soon, I hear. But they closed for a while after COVID. But this entirely changed the whole mood of the evening because I was just like, I was no longer having fun. Here I am, a professional mother of 4, beautiful, smart daughters, college educated, dressed and groomed nicely, and someone like this is going to come out of the woodwork and attempt to make me feel cheap? What do you think of that?
I wouldn't have let yourself feel cheap. Just ignored that sentence.
Yeah.
I don't think he meant it like you thought.
Okay, so interpreter ordered me another tequila at the Foxhole and then asked me if I'm a lightweight. I asked him why he was asking me this.
She drinks like one drink and then is drunk.
Yeah. I asked him, why are you asking me this? Did I seem like I was having too much to drink? I felt fine, but now that I think about it, he didn't eat anything, and maybe that is why he was getting drunk quicker. Because he answered me and said, no, but I am a lightweight.
Okay. I need to hear more. What happens next?
Then, as we started laughing, trying to get past what had happened, and telling the young female bartender at this new place what had happened at the last place, okay? The story started getting longer, okay? Now interpreter said that the reason he started talking to the bartender is because she came up and told him that I was pretty and asked what my allowance is. Which he said is what they call gifts that women get for going out with men. I had no idea. I guess it can also be money. I had no idea. Is that what you thought it was?
I thought money.
I have no idea.
You're married for 54 years. You can't even relate.
I think money.
Then he changed the subject to New York because he said he was very uncomfortable that she would ask him this. An interpreter then pointed out that now I have something to blog about. So there you have it. The interpreter was so politically incorrect that I will never know what truly happened because, as he pointed out, now when I go back, and even if I say anything to this bartender, she's going to deny it, and so will he. But as soon as I realized that I wasn't having fun anymore, I thanked him again for the drinks, but that I was just going to go ahead and walk home alone.
I think that was the right move.
Yeah, I'm glad you left.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened after that, and I didn't even write the blog that night. I just went to sleep and then woke up in the middle of the night and wrote it. But
because you couldn't sleep because it was so disruptive?
No, well, I mean,
she missed him.
It was
I watched so many
I never saw this guy again. I never saw this guy again. But it was just so funny the whole night, the way he kept misinterpreting everything I would say. He'd be like, "What did you say? Did you say this?" And it would be something to make me
How old is
sound
this?
like
Yeah, how old? Yeah.
same age as me. Same age.
How many years ago was this?
This was maybe
Tuesday.
No.
This is when I lived in South Beach, which was like 8 years ago. So it was like 7 years ago, 7 years ago.
What's dating like in Boca?
Well, so how long have you been married?
13 years.
13 years and only marriage.
Yeah, my only marriage.
Okay. Well, in Boca, I don't date a lot.
Because there's
honest.
not enough men here, or is it just like a weird time for you? I have so many questions.
What am I
I'm
here for?
excited. You have so many questions.
Well,
Am I on the wrong?
She took us to blog time, so
Am I on the wrong podcast?
What?
Am I on the wrong podcast? Is this not me for me?
Well, I don't know. You probably have friends
No,
that are
I
dating.
just thought that you might appreciate it because you're into stories. Like your productions are all into stories. So I have two different
Dating's
things.
very
He
hard for
has
me in Boca.
he has a new concept for a show now. After that,
That's right.
The interpreter.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I've got one more segment that I can share, and then I want to hear more about, what you have coming up with the studio and with your productions too, with G4. Okay, this is the Real Estate Minute. Okay, U.S. migration trends by Redfin. Where are people moving in to and from? Nationwide, 24% of homebuyers searched to move to a different metro area between December 23rd and February 24th. The top 5 states homeowners or home buyers searched to move to were Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, South Carolina, and Tennessee, while California, New York, Illinois, Washington, and Massachusetts were the top 5 states homebuyers searched to move from. Are you surprised by that?
I just heard television yesterday. They said Tennessee was the worst place to move to.
Is that right?
Montana was the best.
Is that right?
Really?
Over Florida, really? Okay. Of the major U.S. metros, Sacramento was the most searched for destination among homebuyers looking to relocate between December 2023 and February 2024. Next came Phoenix, Las Vegas, Sarasota, and Cape Coral. Los Angeles was the most searched for destinations among homebuyers looking to leave, followed by New York, San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington. Anyway, so I know that you've bought a few places here in Boca, haven't you?
We only lived in one place at the Addison on the beach, and we love it.
I know, and I love it too.
For 40 years
I love it
now.
there too. It's a beautiful building.
And I'll tell you what G4 is doing going forward. We're producing a show that opens on April 19th on Broadway called Stereophonic.
Okay.
So everybody look that up. And
Stereophonic?
Stereophonic.
That's amazing.
She's doing a lot more stuff at the theater than we're doing one show on Broadway in April.
Wow. So you're doing one show.
One show that opens this year in April.
Okay. And where can we find information about that?
Just Google Stereophonic, and you'll see reviews that it was in England. We brought it up from England, and the reviews are unbelievable.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
We're excited, and we'll go up to New York.
Gonna get another one of those Tony Awards.
Well, we hope so.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, now, what do you have coming up in the studio that we should know about? What's the most exciting thing you've got coming up?
We have a lot. Well, this comes out on Friday. So this weekend we have the Bronx Wanderers.
Bronx Wanderers. I brought the Bronx Wanderers to her, and we've had it here once already.
This will be the second
time.
Yeah.
We sold out every ticket. We sell out every night when we're in Las Vegas. And if it's coming out Friday, they should rush. I think there was how many tickets left?
Not a lot.
30 tickets left for 3 days, but the show is phenomenal.
It's funny. You want me to look at camera, but I'm more comfortable looking at you, so I'm going to tell you guys. It's an amazing show. It's like Jersey Boys on steroids, right? It's like all the hits. I mean, I like it. My parents are obsessed with it. He was one of the original producers of the show.
Wow.
It has a residency in Vegas. They came here for the first time last year, sold out all 3 shows, and then they'll be here. So the 15th, 16th, 17th of March. And then after that, we have Andrea McGardle, who is a Broadway, the original Annie on Broadway, which is great. And then after her, we have, do you remember Taylor Dane?
Of course.
Taylor Dane's coming for
We just bought 10
4
tickets
shows,
to Taylor Dane.
2 nights. So she's going to do like an intimate night with, and we're going to have like all the hits. So that's really exciting. And then we have a bunch of comedians coming up.
Well, Sarge, we used to always play at the Black Box, and now this is where his residence theater now.
So Sarge comes in
sells that every night
December.
that he comes.
Yep, Sarge comes in December. And then David Koshner, who is champ on Anchorman, and he's also been on The Office. He comes here in December. So we have a lot of really cool stuff.
Wow, that sounds like it.
Yeah.
All right, now tell me, what is the most exciting thing that has happened to you since you've been working at the studio and with Kenneth?
Well, that's the most exciting thing that happened there.
I guess I won't say who, but a very A-name actor walked in the other day to come see the space because he had heard through his other actor friends about what we're doing and really wanted.
I kind of want to know who that was.
Can't tell you.
I know who it is, and I'll tell you, when she told me who it was, she told me somebody completely different.
I did.
Who I know. And I said, "Oh my God, he was here. You don't call me." But then I found out it was. She
but
only
it's
had
equally exciting.
not equally.
Fine.
Okay, so I won't use the name now, but yes.
I was very excited.
She was excited, and it was very exciting.
It was exciting
but not the person she told me.
there's a buzz, and I love a buzz. So that was really exciting. I don't know. I'm an excitable person.
I
get excited about a lot of things.
Do you love being in a Mizner Park?
Yeah, it's great.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
Here's the big deal. She likes Boca Raton now, and she was leaving.
Yes, I do like being in Mizner. I don't leave the building during the day usually, but I do like being in Mizner.
Well, I'm
I mean,
so
I've known
happy to
Mizner
be
my whole life.
introduced to you today.
Yes,
This
you'll
is
have to come.
amazing.
You'll have to
Yes, I'd love
I
to.
told you she would be the star of this show.
She is. Well, you're both stars.
Yes.
You're both stars.
Thank you
So
for having us.
I'm honored to have you all. Please, everybody, reach out to us underneath this video. Please post your best and worst things you liked about the podcast or wanted to know more, and answer, any questions or ask any questions that we have asked throughout the show here that you can, that you want to know more about. We are here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all over social media. Okay. So we'd love to hear what you want to know more about. And I'm Tracy Bush-Pate with Keller Williams Real Estate, and I'd love to be your source. If you don't already have a realtor you're working with, I'd love to help you. So reach out to me and my team so we can help you and find the most awesome place for you coming up. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to share today?
Oh, thank you for having us. Right?
So what did you say he offered you? What did he call it? The money?
Allowance.
Allowance.
An
So
allowance.
If,
I'm like,
if Steffi and I run
on second thought.
Yeah.
if Steffi and I run into someone who wants to give you an allowance, should we give your number out or no?
Well, I don't know. Let's talk about it. A few years have passed.
She's willing to take an allowance. Things have changed.
A few years have
Things
passed.
It's like, what was that
Let's-
movie? $1
like,
Million
I
Dollar
just-
when the
Oh, it's what is it? It's
movie, they want to sleep with his wife for $1 million or something.
What? No, I don't know that movie.
well,
a
I
great
do know
movie.
that movie.
Really?
Yes, the thing is, what does that? I mean, I was not clear about an allowance. I'd never heard that term
Well, you
before.
didn't give
so,
any numbers out.
he didn't give me any numbers, but I'm like,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute, maybe let's talk about it. You never
yeah.
know.
I think
mean,
you should negotiate next
do-
time.
maybe that'll be the answer from now on, right? Maybe I'm
yeah.
not so quick to say no. I don't know. Let's talk
Yeah, so I
about
made the
it.
same mistake.
I mean, like you said, how's dating in Boca? Well,
She needs an
I haven't heard
allowance.
that yet, but
She needs an allowance.
I haven't heard that yet, but
Well, I made the same mistake in real estate. Since you're in the real estate business, somebody wanted to buy my apartment, and I said, it's not for sale. It's not for sale. Finally, he said, I want a number. So I gave him a number, and he came back to me and says, can I make you a counter proposal? And I said, no.
oh, indecent proposal. Is that the
Decent
movie?
proposal was, yeah, that was. So he wanted to make it, I want to make you a counter proposal. I said, I told you it's not for sale unless you paid this price. And I didn't take the counter proposal. I'll never know what he was going to ask.
All right. Well, see, you never know unless you ask. You never know
don't know
unless
the real estate
you
business.
ask. But anyway, on that note, I'm looking for sponsors. I'm going to keep this show going. I love doing it, and I need some help here, because
She needs some allowance.
I need an allowance for a sponsor or an advertiser or something.
Yes.
I need some more support. So anyway, you know where to find me, guys. I love having these people here today and learning so much more about entertainment and what you can give us and add to our horizon here in Boca Raton,
You
Florida.
keep running for 3 years or so, and when the theater's ready to take some sponsors, we'd love to help you, but we're not ready yet.
Well, anyway, you sponsored me by getting me those tickets to that show. I have no doubt, right?
Okay.
Anyway, thank you
That
to
show
you
was
both.
Menopause the Musical.
Yes, Menopause the Musical, and it was a great show. I really enjoyed it, and tune in next week. We're going to have the Dr. Johnson from Casa Privé, and you're going to hear a lot about what they have to do there for you so that you can feel and look better and stay younger.
And they probably have a lot of menopausal women.
And, well, they're not feeling menopausal anymore. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks to what they can do for us, right? Anyway, anything
Thanks,
else?
Tracy.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure.
Talk to you soon, everybody. I hope you have a great week.